for tuna, and I love what Pastor Dave has been doing through Veritas and just hearing, so it's exciting to be able to get to stand here with you guys. So I'm coming in, and it's my job to help you understand how to use Strongs and Vines. I'm going to come at it from from Bible Hub. If I had my way, everyone would have enough money for their own books. I'm a book guy, I like books, but when it comes to searching, digital is so very sweet. When I search up something, and even when I can't think of the verse address, Google is where I'll go real quick for something because I can get the basic of it and it'll shoot it out and I can find, then I go look up in the book where it's at. But Bible Hub is going to be helpful for understanding how to use Strongs. Before I dig into it, I want to kind of set some framework. I want to set some groundwork. One, you need to understand that Strongs and Vines are a tool. All right? And I don't know if any of you have a craft skill. I'm a woodworker. I'm a wood craftsman. And it doesn't matter how good the tool is only as good as the worker is. You know, I could be a welder, but if I don't know how to weld, I can have the most expensive welder in the world. You know, I can have the most expensive woodworking tools in the world, but if I don't know as a person how to use the tools are useless at some point. They're going to get me only so far, and then the tools are going to fail me. And so these tools are only going to help you if you're a good student of the Bible. If you're a poor student of the Bible, the tools are just going to mess you up along the way. They're actually not going to move you along very far. All right, so quick understanding. A guy with the name Strongs, there's a fuller name, but you know, for all intents and purposes, a guy with the name Strongs, he said, I want to make it a little bit easier to find words, cross-reference words. Okay, this word day shows up in Genesis 1. Where else does this word day show up elsewhere in the Old Testament? And he compiled a massive book called Strong's Concise Concordance. And it gets down to not just big words like God or day, but it gets down to the small words like and or in. Like as in, I go in somewhere. I mean, it goes very, very exhaustively. This was done in about 1890. That was the first one that was done. And then a guy about 1940 came along, and he did the same thing. Strong's did it for the Old and New Testament, but Vines did it with just the New Testament. And so normally you'll see Strongs and Vines kind of combined together today. But one of the things that you have to be mindful of when they were built with the King James Version in mind. So if you're not familiar with King James English, and if you're not familiar with that, it's going to be a little bit of a hiccup getting over some of those things. So every once in a while you're just going to have to get rid of the if, or something like that, and you're just going to have to transform in your mind. And this is where the digital version is going to help you. So a lot of Strongs or Vines are built in the King James translation, but a digital will translate it to your modern English. So that's a useful aspect. All right. I love the original languages. I love Greek for the New Testament. I love Hebrew for the Old Testament. I love it. I teach it as often as I can, and it's real, real important. Strongs and Vines is built on a somewhat basic understanding of the original languages. So if you have no comprehension that the Bible is translated from Greek and Hebrew, you open up Strong's and it's going to be a new world. So just for those of you that hear, how many of you are familiar, at least in concept, that the Bible has been translated from Greek and Hebrew? You guys all familiar with that? Yeah. All right, sweet. Dave's doing you good. All right, he's doing all right. All right, so when you get into the Strongs, you're dealing with the concept and the area of biblical studies called word studies. Right? So when you get in there, you're dealing with word studies. What does this word mean? Why does it mean that? And how do I understand it to be met in the common usage? How do I understand it with other words? And so when you're coming at this whole concept with, okay, what does this word mean? But you need to understand, word studies is not the beginning nor the end of the interpretive process. So if the only thing you do when interpreting the Bible is do word studies, you're short-selling yourself. You know, it's kind of like you're going to go and you're going to make a hamburger, and all you do is prep the tomatoes. And you're like, where's the rest of the hamburger? That's all good. I got the tomatoes for you. You're going to miss something. That doesn't mean that, but to the other side, if you have a hamburger milk but no tomatoes, it'll do, but it'd be nice to have tomato for this hamburger. It's kind of that thing. It's one piece for the whole. All right. That said, further, understanding that it's original language, we need to understand, you're going to open up a dictionary, an English dictionary, and you're going to look at a word. And you and I know that we can look through those definitions and understand that one word can have multiple definitions, right? And not only that, but the usage of that word in that context can change based off the context, not just the context of the other words around it, but also the tone of the user. Just so, kind of think of a child and a parent. Did you clean your room? Yes. Did you clean your room? Yes. Did you clean your room? Yes. Changing the tone changes the understanding, right? So just because you understand the word yes means affirmative or okay or I gotcha, it does not mean that you're understanding the context. That's where you have to take into the context of that passage. It's real important. I know Pastor Dave's covered this stuff with the hermeneutics class, but it's real important going into this that you bring that with you. You got to put all those tools in the backpack and take it on this journey, because otherwise you're going to be on a cold night without any reserves. You're going to be in a bad situation. But some things to consider. Context determines meaning. You also need to understand there is no secret code meaning. There's no secret code in the Bible. All right, if we take these words and we organize them in this way, we're going to understand that JFK was supposed to be shot. But we're going to understand that COVID was supposed to happen. But we're going to understand that, this or that. You can take any book, non-spiritual book, basic book, and you can create those codes. You can do that with anything. There's no code. The mystery of the Bible has been revealed. Jesus Christ. Done. Where's the mystery? Jesus, that's it. Well, I found a new mystery. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. If you're doing these word studies, just like any other studies in the Bible, if you're the first one to discover a new meaning, you're wrong. If you're the first, you're wrong. It's 2,000 years, I know some smart guys, and you guys look like smart guys. You guys should hang out with them, but I'm going to be honest with you. You're not that smart where 2,000 years comes along and you found something that no one else found out. And you're like, oh, we're waiting for you. That's how you get Mormonism. Okay, that's how you get Islam and stuff like that. That's how you get cults. Yeah. So if you're the first, you're wrong. But to the other side, words have to mean something. Words have to mean something. Postmodernism, it's a term, but foundationally postmodernism, there is no truth. Truth is relative. You can say whatever you want, and as long as you believe it, you're good. That's good for you, and what's good for me. The catchphrase is "you do you." Yeah. This is really bad, not good. Words can't mean everything, but they have to mean something. You don't just say words and they mean nothing. Now we may say in our language or in our tongue, no, you're just saying empty words. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you're just saying empty words. Well, no, I'm sorry means something, but what we're saying by using empty words is you don't actually mean what it is you're saying. But nevertheless, those words mean something in their usage and what they're supposed to be doing. All right. And then lastly, just setting some framework, don't blame the Holy Spirit for bad exegesis. Yes. It's the Holy Spirit's fault that I didn't do my legwork and led me astray. No, the Spirit of truth. Okay, so there's some framework to work with, just some stuff. When we're dealing with language, when we're dealing with the words in the word study, we need to keep two things in mind, especially word studies. Words carry what's called the semantic meaning, or the semantic range. All right, so in the common language, you can say cool. And cool has a semantic range. Cool can mean what some might say literally cool. It is not hot, it is not cold, but it is cool. Cool can also mean the hipness or the trendiness of something. Oh, that music star is cool, or that trick is cool. Or cool can mean not the physical temperature, but the emotional temperature. My wife is being cool to me. Not nice, not hip, not cold, but she's not warming up to me. She's not being lovely. She's being cool. Give me the what we also say, the cold shoulder. So the semantic range. So one word can mean many different things. So we wouldn't go out and say, I went to the fridge and I pulled out some food and it was cool. We'd be like, oh, it was hip? I mean, it could mean that, but we wouldn't think that because the context would tell us that. Or, hey, how was the date last night? Oh, my wife she was rather cool. You wouldn't be like, oh, it was a hip date or it was a cold date? Why don't you bring a jacket? You would say, oh, there was a hiccup in the relationship. And so once again, the semantic range. What does this word possibly mean? And then the context tells us what it has to mean. All right, so the semantic range. But what semantic range cannot do is give us the what we call the synonyms. You go to your dictionary to understand what a word is. You go to a thesaurus to understand parallel words or words next door to it. So, if I said cool, as in it is a cool night out, or I said and when you pull things out of the refrigerator, they're cool, can you give me some synonyms, some other words other than cool, which still imply cool, but is a different word? So what would be some synonyms?
Oh, you're asking.
For real, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's all good.
Other words for cool that means cool?
Yeah.
Relaxed.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
No, I'm thinking particularly the fridge is cool, the night is cool, the water is cool.
Chili.
Chili?
Yeah. Now you got me stuck. Cool. Frozen. Chill, like you said. I don't know.
All right, so these are just a few, you know.
The Eskimos are always cool.
Yeah, right? And so once again, we start understanding that just because you can look up what a word can possibly mean, sometimes when you start looking at the word, you don't take into account the other words that influence or can be used next to that word. And so one of the downfalls of word studies is you get tunnel vision. You only look at what's at the end of your sight and you forget about the other words that it could be talking about. So if you wanted to look up all the words or all the times that God is used in the Bible, you would have a profitable word study. But if you just looked up the times God was used, what other words would not be listed in that definition per se, or exactly? What are some other words that you might be missing out on that would parallel or be synonymous to God?
Were you asking?
Asking for real, yeah. Oh, good, I know.
Say again, I'm sorry, bro.
So I wanted to look up God, and we're going to look up right now, but if we want to look up God in Strong's and find out all the time that God was used in the Old Testament and the New Testament, what words are not going to come up or necessarily be listed, although it means God and talks about God, but isn't the word God, what would be some other words that we would not see necessarily?
Yahweh.
What?
I am.
Yahweh.
Shaddai.
Yeshua.
Yeah. So we got all these things that, although they are
The same.
useful for understanding who God is, if you look up God, you're not going to get there. And so when you understand that we're doing a word study, you may be understanding how that word's used, but don't forget how the word can be used, or the idea.
The broad use of it, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's important. Why did the translator, or rather, why did the author, the human author, and why did the Holy Spirit inspire the human author to use this word as opposed to that word? Why did Jesus say I am instead of saying I am God? You know, why did Jesus say I am the way, the truth, the life, and not why did he not say that in a different language or different words? And so it's not just about the word that is used, but it's also about the words that were not used, or the words that were thought about, or that, hey, I want you to think about these words even though I'm not going to say these words. So when you talk about a subject in front of kids, you say other things to help the other adults understand, but you kind of keep the kids in the dark.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want the kids to understand what's going on, but you tell the adults what's going on so they understand. And so the same thing we go into the Bible, well, why did it explain it this way with it? So these are things to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to go and look up something, and we're going to do 2 verses to kind of understand how to use this. So I'm using Bible Hub, BibleHub.com, and this is really, really useful. Yeah. So if you can see it, you can see it. If you can't, you can't. I apologize. But let me see. If we want, we can run an HDMI straight into this TV. I don't know if that'll mess you up or mess up your recording system.
We'll get it recorded, that's all right. What's more important to get it up there for them.
Okay.
We just
So what
got a
you need?
bad splitter on next one.
Okay.
So what you guys need help?
So,
Need help?
well, I'll tell you what, we'll run 2 computers. Well, yeah, if you would you come here real quick?
There you go.
Keep playing that in. And then, where's that HDMI at?
Is it getting too hot?
Yeah, well, I think the splitters bad, weren't over another splitter.
Bummer. Oh, I'm definitely gonna be in your guys' way now. Got your kidney seed, Mr. Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna go my car. I was like, I love my dog.
So it's
Oh, wow. Can you see? Alright, good. Well, that's, yeah.
okay. So,
How do you get to that little site right there? On the,
so if you go to BibleHub.com,
Yeah.
it takes you there. There's also a app. If you search Bible Hub with an Android device, that's what I have. I'm sure iPhone has it as well. But all right, so Bible Hub used it for lots of different things. But if you look kind of just real quick, because this is going to be helpful, at the very top, you see where it says Genesis. You can drop it down, pick your book of the Bible, then you've got your what passage you're in. You can also pick a version. You can also pick a commentary, and there's actually a language feature.
Wow.
So that you can actually get into a language. You got Hebrew and Greek at the top, but you can actually, this has multiple languages.
Wow, I
You know, so as long as there's enough languages on here that someone knows has access to this. All right. So for those of the
Oh, shit.
in the international church. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
But so we're going to go to right here where it says Strong's. And I'm going to click on the Strong's right now. And it's going to pull me here. It actually took me to where I said at the beginning where I was at. Genesis
One more.
chapter 1, verse 1. And it gave me, because I'm in Strong's, it gave me automatically where I'm at. Now remember what I said, that the Bible is translated from Hebrew in the Old Testament, Greek in the New Testament. So right off the bat, when you get into the Strong's,
Go right
it's
to
already
Hebrew.
giving you Hebrew words. And so you're going to look at some of these squiggles. It says Bereshit. You may have no idea how to pronounce that, and that's okay. But if you look to the right of it, and I just took us somewhere. you'll see it says Bereshit, but we're going back. 'cause-
How'd you get,
Sorry, I
you just
clicked.
clicked on, okay.
I clicked that right there, and it
Okay.
took me over there. So
Alright.
some of these blue, some of the blue is linked, some of the blue is not. I apologize.
No,
And so if you don't know how to pronounce it, there it is right there. But what it does is it tells you, well, let me back up. Greek and Hebrew, all the words are built off of roots. This is foreign to English. We don't use language in the exact same way. So, but every word that's used, so we take a verb, running or run, and we have to add other words onto running to make run. And so if I just walked up to you and said, run, you'd think I'm telling you to do something. But in Greek and Hebrew, you add stuff onto the root. Run would be the root, but you add stuff on top of it. In Hebrew, it's usually built off of 3 consonants. It's usually the root, have the basic form, and then you just add all these pieces onto it. I'm trying to simplify 6 months of Hebrew into 6
So-
minutes.
cow, instead of just saying cow, they understand it more like the cow, it's a milking cow as well as it's a cow burden, that's what the essence of the cow becomes in the focus, correct?
Well, once again, context.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
So, all right. So what we'll use, for example, is that we're going to start here where it says, in the beginning, Bereshit. The actual word right there is actually that little R-looking thing, that X-looking thing, that W-looking thing, Reshit for beginning, and then it adds some other things for purposes to that. But and it comes from the idea of Rosh, which is where you, if you've ever heard the Hebrew celebration Rosh Hashanah, it's the head of the year. And so these words are related. But here it has Bereshit, and you're like, okay, where else is this word used in some form throughout the Bible? Well, if you had a Strong's book, you'd actually have to look it up to a degree. But here what you can do is it actually just gives you right there, it highlights for you Strong's Hebrew 7225. So what we could do now is we could click on Strong's Hebrew 7225, and it would take me to this list with all the different ways that it's being used in different forms and such. So there's lots of stuff going on here. So there's an extended version here, but I'm going to go back and just give us the simplified form. So what it's doing is it's trying to give the simplified. And basically, Strong says, the research is, this word, when it's used, can be used in one of 4 or 5 different ways. It can be used to mean first, beginning, best, or chief, and that's one way. Or it can be used as beginning, or it can be used as first, or chief, or choice part. And so there's different ways that Rosh could be translated. But when you put it in the context of Genesis 1:1, and you add the bet at the beginning, bet, and the eat at the end, and you put Bereshit, it comes together to not mean first, or chief, or choice part, but beginning. In the beginning. That's what it means. And so Strong's is going to help you understand where it's being used, various parts of the Bible, but you still need to depend on the context to help you understand what it means. And so what we would do is we could go to Strong's Hebrew 7225. I'm going to go back there. We're going to find out that this is a noun. It's a feminine noun. English doesn't use masculine, feminine, and neuter within how we speak about nouns or verbs. That's a common thing. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Spanish, but you want to say el when you're speaking to male and la when you're speaking to female, because if you mix those up, you might get punched in the nose or complimented in our current context, which is not good.
That's horrible.
But if you scroll all the way down, and I see at the bottom right here, it says Strong 7225. It says that this word for Reshit,
Oh, wow.
is used 51 times. So is this a common word? Not a common word. How often is this found or not found? And you can look up, I can pull up, I could just click one of these and say, oh look, Rashid, this one is used 28 times. And you can find out all the times that it's used. Like, yeah, there it came.
Oh, so what's the OCC? Occurrence, okay, never mind.
Yeah, OCC occurrence, yeah.
Right.
And so it's going to actually bring up all of those times that it is used. And so you can go on a pretty deep rabbit trail of trying to figure out what does this word even mean?
Yeah.
Or what does this word even mean? Where is it used? Why is it used that way?
You get my phone tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But from a short standpoint, you get Bereshit in the beginning. That makes sense. It has the preposition be, the preposition be. It says right there in orange, with the noun, and it's feminine singular. And if you're not, and this is where if you're not familiar with the languages, some of this stuff is just kind of, you're in an airport and the airplanes are flying over you. They're going somewhere and you have nowhere where they're going, but they're going. However, there's still useful stuff for you. You can see very plainly in English, all right, Strong's Hebrew, this word could mean first, beginning, best, or chief, but we would want to use the context to determine what it means. And sometimes just saying the word in a different, with saying the Bible passage with those different words would help it make sense. Sometimes. Not always. But if you said, in the first, God created the heavens and the earth, it just doesn't make good English. You know, or if you said, in the best, God created the heavens and the earth, then you could get, well, that sounds theologically cool. I guess, but it's not good. Or in the chief. Now that just makes
choice part.
no sense. And it makes no clarity. Or, you know, in the choice part, that's not good. Rather, in the beginning, it just makes the most sense. Once again, there's a basic rule with, it's kind of a law, kind of like the law of gravity. Go with the most simplest explanation. If you're talking to a kid or you're talking to a criminal, often they're the same. If their story is really, really complex, it's probably not quite right. But if it's just simple, it's like, okay, that was simple, it makes sense, then that's going to go with that. Same thing in translating. Just there's no need to overcomplicate things. All right, that said, we're going to look and do a little bit of testing. If you would, open up your Bible to Genesis chapter 1.
No, that guy.
All right, so Genesis chapter 1 says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. All right? Just preached a sermon on that this summer, so go listen to that if you're not sure what that means. But God created everything. All right. But it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. Now catch this. The word that I want you to pay attention to is day. God called the light day, and darkness he called night. There was evening, there was morning, the first day. The same English word, day, is being used twice. The Hebrew word, yom, being used twice. But it's being used two different ways, but not in a contradiction, not in opposition to each other. So, it says, God called the light day. There was morning, but there was evening, there was morning, the first day. The first time he says the light, he called day. Now it says that morning, evening, now there's day. Okay, this could give us pause to say, okay, what is going on? Some of us probably just read right over that. We told people to turn off their phone, and I didn't even turn off my phone. I apologize. Okay. But you go to 1:5, and we're going to go look up this passage, Genesis 1:5, and we're going to move down to the Strong's, and it says, I'm gonna go to the last day because it will allow us to do what we need to do anyways. It says Yom there.
Same one.
But notice Strong's 3117, actually move up a hedge to demonstrate. And then Yom again, Strong's 3117. So we're dealing with the same Strong's word. We're still dealing with the same Hebrew word. All right? But look at the definitions that could be used to describe day or Yom. You have day, time, year. Day as opposed to night, day, 24-hour period. A day as defined by evening and morning in Genesis 1, or a division of time, or a working day, or a day's journey, or days as in a lifetime, or time, or period, or year, or temporal reference, or today, or yesterday, or tomorrow. All right, now I'm going easy on this one, because this is easy, and it's amazing how many people mess this up anyways, but I'm going to go easy on this one. But it'll give you kind of a structure so that when you dig in later, at a later point in a different word, you kind of got this worked out a little bit. But the first time it says, God called the light day, what does he mean by day there? And you're like, what day? You're saying like, this sounds dumb, John. It means day. Well, what does it mean by day there? So kind of all those options that we have with day, what kind of day is being meant when it says that first day in Genesis 1:5? And he called the light day. What is Moses, the human author, and the Holy Spirit, the divine author, meaning when day is used right there?
It's got to be a 24-hour period. Well,
It's naming.
What?
it's naming.
It's capitalized, so it's.
Mine's capitalized. I don't understand that one.
Well, capitalized that's an English thing. There is no capitals in Hebrew.
Huh.
But we are translating into English what is readily readable in the Hebrew, or what is clearly readable in the Hebrew. And it's very simple. And so you caught it in the capitalization. It's using day in terms of a name. There's a name. What do you do in English when you have a name? You capitalize the name, right?
Right.
And so it's very simple. God is naming two things on this first day. One of the things that he's first on this first day is he's naming the light and he's naming the dark. So except for Alaska and Antarctica, the light of the day lasts, give or take, 12 hours. And the darkness lasts, give or take, 12 hours. You know, you read in the 3rd hour, in the 6th hour, in the 9th hour, and in the 12th, the 11th hour. The 11th hour is meaning the last hour of the day. The 6th hour meaning 3 o'clock. The 9th hour meaning 3 o'clock. The 6th hour meaning noon, 12 p.m. The 3rd hour meaning 9 a.m. All right? So, all right, so it's just day. The light is day. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, well, then that means day always has to mean light, right? No. We're going to go and read where it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, where it says God called the light day, as in a name, and that's one of the options that you have in the Strong's. Then it says, he called darkness, he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And that first is not the same as the head from Rosh. It's two different words, but they are related. But different story, different time. What does it mean by day right there? Are we now talking just about light?
No,
It's a period. It's a time.
Beginning.
Well, if the first one is naming the actual, it's a proper noun. It's
Proper
actually,
noun, okay.
yeah. This next one is just saying it's a daytime. It's
something
correct. Yeah.
It's
It's a temporal. It's just a time period.
a time period. What did you say?
like something that just happened.
Okay.
Like days.
All right, and then what did you say?
Beginning.
Okay. So isn't it annoying having to describe how the word works?
Yeah.
That's good.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
We all feel like a 10-year-old all over
Yeah.
again. What do you mean?
Redefining it, yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay.
So, once again, context. Context is helping us understand, which limits us from saying that day, although is the same Hebrew word and the same English word for us, it's not being used the same way. The first day is being used to reference the concept of light. When we go out in the light, it is daytime. It is the day. I have a day job. I work the day shift. And talking about the light that's going on. But how many days until my birthday? How many days until school starts? How many days until, this or that? And at that point, now we are getting to a time period. Now, this is where people get kind of like, well, does day mean 24 hours or does it mean this or that? Well, it's very clear. The context helps us understand. It says there was evening, there was morning, day. Simple. What day is being used? The 24-hour concept. Well, how do you know? Because all days have an evening, all days have a morning. That's how days work. There's a conclusion and an opening.
Yeah.
And so we need to understand that we can't just look at what yom could mean and just plug our preferred meaning in there. Well, day could mean age, because it does mean that. Because using the English language, back in my day, I'm too young to say that, but back in my day, that means back in a period of time. So someone talking about when they were a kid. Back in my day, I could get, gum for, a quarter a piece or something. Your grandpa saying that. But he's not talking about there was a particular day that he had, but rather he was talking about a time period. But the context of Genesis 1:5 doesn't allow us to pick whatever day we want. We have to use the context to help confine, to help limit the usage of the word.
Yeah, it was that day.
Right? And so it's important. So word studies help us understand what a word could mean, but then also teach us via context what it must mean. So we can't just say, well, this is what I think it means. Well, I'm glad that's what you think it means, but God and Moses and the rest of Orthodox Christianity knows it means.
Yeah.
And so we have to stick to what is true. We serve a God of truth, not a God of opinion. It may be true that you believe something, but that does not make it true. All right. So we dealt with Old Testament passage. What we're going to do is we're going to jump to. I see if I still have the time to do it. Okay, I'm making good on time. Jump to Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 11.
Chapter 11?
Chapter 4, verse 11. Sorry if I didn't make it clear, I apologize.
Okay.
And so once again, we're still in the Strong's portion of Bible Hub. You got all these other different places you could go. But we're still in the Strong's portion. All right. Now, I'm going to make the guess that most of you know what a pastor is. When I say pastor, you guys know that I'm speaking about the person or persons that God has put in charge or responsible for a local church. All right.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know this, there are also words in the Bible that talk about the elders or that talk about the overseers. And elders and overseers are synonymous terms, words that can be interchanged with pastor, that also refer to the same office, the same person. So in my church, I am the pastor, but I'm also the elder and the overseer. I am currently the only elder, yet it is our desire and prayer that God would send other men, and I am keeping myself busy with the responsibility of raising up men who desire so. Other elders, other pastors, all right? And Pastor Dave he serves as I don't know the exact terminology, so forgive me if I don't use the exact terminology, but he serves as the pastor, but he serves as a lead pastor, or the lead pastor, in the sense of he has a certain heaviness or weight that's put on him that's not put on other pastors, although they are still full-fledged biblical pastors. They're elders. It's interesting though, pastor is the most common term in English used to reference the pastor, the elder, yet pastor, referencing the office, except for when it mentions Christ as and we'll deal with that in a second, pastor is only used one time referencing the title of the office. One time, and this is it. This is the only time. And I won't go into it now, but you can very easily see how they are all synonymous, but I want to go in and demonstrate something from this text which helps us understand how we should be using it. And why am I picking this? Well, because pastor does not mean pastor. I mean, it means pastor, but it doesn't mean pastor. It means something else. But we have retained a Latin translation of the word. But if we were to translate the word pastor in Greek into English, we would get something else. What would it be?
Shepherd.
Shepherd. So we've translated differently. So this is going to provide some interesting things. So if you go down and you move down towards the end of it, open my Bible as well to that section. Says, and he, God, context lets us know as God from previous verse, and he, God, gave the apostles, gave the prophets, gave the evangelists, the shepherds and teachers. What did he give them for? To equip the saints for the work of the ministry. All right. There's lots that this verse speaks to and sets up, but what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the idea of pastor. So now we're dealing with Greek, not Hebrew. So when you're looking at Greek, the words look a little bit more familiar, but not exactly. It comes from the idea of, here it's, the exact word is poimenos. And we're going to see right here that it could be translated as a shepherd. And what's meant by a shepherd is the feeder, the protector, the ruler of a flock. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Strong's Greek. And poimen, if you'll see right there, where it says helps word studies, it's 4166. Properly, it's shepherd. Pastor is in Latin. So the word pastor is derived from Latin. So we kept this word from Latin. And figuratively, so we might say literally, but we might literally mean a pastor. So the technical use of it is referencing the person that sits and hangs out with the sheep. Smells like them, sometimes looks like them, right? So a little bit rough, but properly a shepherd, someone who cares for sheep, or someone whom the Lord raises up to care for the total well-being of his flock, the people of the Lord. So, once again, this is going to show us the possible meaning of what it says, or what it could mean. Because you look up shepherds, when you look up this word, there's a verse that's going to come up that talks about all of the pastors that were out in the field at night. And the shepherd, or the angel came and spoke to the pastors and said, "Behold, in Bethlehem, a child has been born." Oh, wasn't that nice? God came and told all those pastors about Jesus. That was good. No, he came and told all those shepherds about Jesus. And this is the importance of what can the word mean, but what must the word mean. Now, you look at the context of this verse, and it's talking about apostles, which means sent out ones. It's talking about evangelists, which comes from the word good news. They are the good newsers. They're the ones that are tasked with telling the good news. You have the prophets, and then you also have the pastors and teachers. Well, the context of this is letting you know it's not using any other farm terms or agricultural terms in this verse. So we're probably not talking about literal or technical shepherds. We're probably talking about the figurative shepherd. The shepherd not of sheep, but the shepherd of God's sheep. Right? The people. And so this is where it's important, where the word is going to let you know where it's used. But this is where, if you look on the right, it shows you the Englishman's Concordance, which is another version of these things. On the right, it shows you that in Matthew 9:36, it says a shepherd or a shepherd. The NAS is the New American Standard. The KJV is the King James. The INT is the International Version, perhaps? I forget on that. Let me see if it... Oh, Biblios Interlinear. Okay. But I'm going to scroll down. If you notice here in this one with Ephesians 4:11, the NAS and the KJV, the New American Standard and the King James, translates the word as pastors, but the Interlinear translates it as shepherds. In the technical sense, it's either one is appropriate, or either one is good or accurate. It's not wrong. But when you get to passages like 1 Peter chapter 2:25, and it says that you have returned to the shepherd and guardian, or returned unto the shepherd and bishop. Right there, it's speaking about Jesus. But you could say pastor. You say pastor. Or you go to the New American Standard or the KJV in Hebrews, the great shepherd of the sheep, or the King James, the great shepherd of the sheep in Hebrews 13:20. You could say the great pastor. But when you're translating, when you're thinking this through, you're having to make decisions. What is going to communicate most accurately what this word means in the original context? What does it mean in the original context? And then how can we translate that into the current context? And so that it makes sense. I heard a teacher say this. He was a teacher, and he made a poem, and he said this. I'm going to butcher how he said it poetically, but he says, in math, I made them show their work, and in English, I made them hide their work. So the idea being in math, you want everyone to see the work, you want to expose it, show all the steps, but in English class, you want it to flow. Don't be super choppy. You want it to flow. You want to hide the thoughts in there, kind of weave it in, and so that you don't notice it. You notice it if it's gone, but when it's there, you don't necessarily notice it. You don't want it to be blatant. When you guys are doing these word studies, in your private study, show your work. In your private studies, show your work. Write down every note you can. Considering the fact that you guys are taking this class, at some point you're going to be teaching. When you go to teach, hide your work. We found that Yom was used 4,000 times in the Bible. We're going to go through all of them right now. Not helpful. Focus on the task that you're on. Focus on the passage that you're in. But understand that the language is a beautiful thing, and there's just so many things I can say about it. But I'm going to withhold anything to say about it to give you guys 2 minutes to ask any questions. Do you guys have any questions for me at this moment?
No. All good.
Okay. You guys always have me as a resource, and make sure to get my contact information for me. If you guys can even just send me an email. I work a day job, and so I've got to get the stuff done, but I'll get back to you. So don't text me on a Saturday night saying, hey, I'm teaching tomorrow and I need you to help me figure this out. Give me a few days lead on that, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then at break time, you guys can look through basically a Hebrew dictionary and a Greek dictionary and see what that looks like. So just cookies and candy. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you for your
Thank you
patience
very
with me.
much.
Thank
Your
you.
time.
Appreciate it.